Welcome to Promote, Profit, Publish. I'm Juliet Clark, your host. And before we get started today with our guest, I want to remind you to go over and take our Promote, Profit, Publish quiz. You can find that at www.promoteprofitpublishquiz.com. Find out if you really are ready to publish. Do you have a platform build? Do you have an audience? Who are you going to sell that book to? Also, go over and follow us on YouTube, Super Brand Publishing. All of these interviews, if you're listening on a podcast, you can see all of these people over there on video. And it's kind of fun sometimes to see, what they really look like and what they're all about. So today's guest, just in time for Valentine's Day, is Kimmy Seltzer. And she is a confidence therapist and authentic dating strategist with a vast knowledge and experience as a therapist, certified style coach, dating coach, and matchmaker. She's helped people find lasting love and connection, attract success, and build valuable relationships using her unique confidence makeover process. Using an outside-in approach, Kimmy implements targeted style, emotional, and social intelligence in people's lives using her signature formula, the Charisma Quotient. She works on body language, first impressions, image, messaging, and how it impacts attraction. This Los Angeles-based expert travels the country helping discover confidence, charisma, and connection as a speaker at national matchmaking conferences, eHarmony, Neutrogena, the Guild of Universal, UCLA, and iDate. Kimmy is also a regular contributor to the Huffington Post, with appearances in Cosmopolitan. I hate that magazine. We'll talk about that in a minute. Oprah Magazine, Redbook, Reader's Digest, Ask Men, Fox News Magazine, Yahoo, and the Washington Examiner, among a myriad of other publications. You can also find Kimmy as the leading love expert on the traveling live dating show, The Great Love Debate, and the cable reality dating show, The Romance. She is the love coach for the dating app DateFit, and you can also listen to her podcast, The Charisma Quotient. She is currently hosting the Flirt Academy workshops nationwide. Welcome, Kimmy.
Oh, thank you.
Wow.
I chuckle when I hear my bio being played back at me. Like we were talking about that in the beginning. It's like, oh, I'm going to read your bio. Well, and it's funny to reflect on all the stuff that I did, because really the reason why I got into doing what I do really comes from my own transformation, my own story. And that is why I'm so passionate about doing what I do. And it has really kind of melted into like where I am today. So
well, tell us about that story, because that's always, I always find it super interesting how we got in. And my listeners know, I had to kill my ex-husband to get into publishing. So I
didn't know that. You'll have to tell me about that later.
I do. I actually was going through a horrible divorce when I wrote my first mystery novel. And of course, nobody was behaving. So I just killed him in it. And that's my story. I looked, I had to do it in the book because felony orange is not my color. So I couldn't really go to jail.
No, orange is not your color, by the way. We can talk about colors later.
There we go. Coming from the stylist. So how did you get into this?
Yeah, well, a similar story. I didn't kill my husband, although maybe I should have now that I hear your story. But really, and this was kind of the defining moment of my life, because, if you rewound my life 18 years ago, it did not look like how it looks today. It was very different. So long story short, I have, short version, long version, but I'll try to condense it, is that, I, once upon a time in a land far, far away named Chicago, that's where I'm from, I lived this very traditional life. And I had the traditional, picket fence, the traditional job as a therapist. And I practiced that for, over 10 years at that point, before I moved here to LA. And I had 2 small kids at the time, and everything was going on as planned. We pick up, we move across the country to La La Land, and we land here, and we do what all the other people here do. We get a divorce. No, I'm joking. Obviously, issues, right, going on in this little fairy tale. But there I was, all alone in this new castle, this new foreign land. And it's like everything just went crashing down. Like life as I knew it completely stopped. The record stopped, basically. And when there's that defining moment, and maybe you had a similar moment where, you look ahead of you and there's a fork in the road and you can go down one path or the other. And I have to tell you, at that moment, I really was going down a dark path.
Mm.
And my clothes definitely reflected the dark period, as I call it. So if you saw me back then, what I looked like was this very sad, frumpy mom. I was still wearing my nursing bras. I wasn't nursing any longer with Birkenstocks, and
Oh,
it was
not
not sexy.
Birkenstocks, not
Oh,
Birkenstocks.
I had it on. I had the Birkenstock. I hadn't like crossed over to the Uggs yet. I thought it was really ridiculous that the Californians were wearing Uggs
Ah,
coming from Chicago, but now guilty as charged. I wear them because I get cold now at 50. Um, so what happened is I look in the mirror and I see, and all I had in my closet were these black ginormous clothes that were 3 sizes too big for me. Maybe I had a splash of beige in my closet, to to mix it up a little, but I recognized and realized that my clothes were really a reflection of where I was at. And I was going down this dark path, not knowing how to get out of my own way. I mean, here I was a therapist, right? And I was like, I should know better. And I had a ton of support. I mean, my friends rallied, my family came to help out with the kids. I went through counseling myself, and I was stuck. I was completely stuck. So what I'm about to tell you changed the course of not only my life, but really what I teach today. Because up until that moment, I really believed that you had to work from the inside out in order to create change for yourself. Oh, you got to do all this inside work. Well, I had done a ton of inside work, right? And I remember looking in the mirror one day and just hating what I saw. And I said, you know what? I'm so fed up. I'm just going to go shopping. I hate the way I look. So shopping therapy, right? I go to the department store, and what am I doing? I think I'm up leveling myself by getting new clothes, but no, I'm picking all the same things. Black, 3
oh.
sizes too big, and I just remember having like a pile of those black clothes in my arms. And this personal shopper, she was watching me, and she comes up and she says, ma'am, I've been watching you, and I really think you should try this on. And she holds up this red dress that looked like 3 sizes too small. I said, "That's really sweet of you, but, it's really not my size, and that is so not my color." She says, "Honey, it is your size, it is your color. Try it on." And I call it my red dress moment. It was like she hit me over the head with that red dress. It was like everything just like as a vortex, it just kinda, like, came in, and I'm like, "Yeah, I need to try on and do something different here to get moving," right? So I slip on this dress begrudgingly, and I twirl around like Cinderella, and I look in the mirror, and it's like I couldn't believe what I saw. I saw a princess. I was like, "Oh my god, I cannot believe that this is me." I hadn't seen me. I hadn't seen
Mm.
me in so long. So I bought the red dress that day almost as a costume, to be honest, because I still didn't really feel it, but I went out into the world and I started marinating in it. And all this magic that you heard in my bio started happening to me. And what I realized is that there was a symbiotic relationship between the outer and the inner when it comes to
Mm.
confidence, when it comes to how you feel, how you move, how you take action. And it wasn't superficial. And there's a lot of research since then, obviously, doing what I do that backs that up. And it wasn't until I got comfortable being seen, and really that's what it was, is that my black clothes was acting as a cloak to keep me invisible from those alien men, because I was scared. I didn't know how to flirt with them or talk to them, I'm sure you can relate. And so when I really embraced being seen and having a voice and coming into my own, that's when my confidence started growing. And of course, that's when I started attracting all these things in my life. And that's what I do today. And so I flipped the script. I no longer practice from the inside out. I actually start from the outside and then go in, which is a little unconventional and different. But I believe that when you dial in your marketing and I know you know this from a business standpoint, but really we as people are no different. When we market ourselves as a dateable, sexy, beautiful person that we are, with confidence in the way that we move in our body, in the way that we wear our clothes, the way we even like express ourselves, our presentation,
Mhm.
that is when people get to know the inside. And so again, it like kind of works hand in hand. And that's where the charisma quotient formula came about. And that's the name of my podcast. Hopefully my book one day. So
Oh, that's
that's
right.
my story.
You have a book coming out. Have you no date?
I know what to be continued. I'm going to be pitching soon. So we have it together and I'm super excited about it.
Oh, that's so amazing. So let's talk about that a little bit. Dating is sort of like marketing. Like
Yeah.
you have to be authentic. You have to know who you are. How do you embrace that journey? Because it's I don't know. I want to say there's so much marketing out there that is like we go out on a first date within 30 seconds I'm asking you to buy something, which is pretty much the equivalent of let's get married within the first 30 seconds. So what do you really do in dating, and how can we relate that back to marketing?
Well, yeah, because that's one of the first things that I like to look at, because I am a therapist and an image expert and a dating coach. Like I kind of have this holistic view of people. Like we're multidimensional, right? And I think too many times people do all this work on the inside, but yet they don't put themselves out there that's congruent with who they are inside. So what I always tell people, it's not like when I work with your style, for instance, and getting like a dateable style, as I call it, or working on your body language that sends signals out to the world that you're interested and interesting, is that it's not changing who you are, but it's about marketing yourself so someone gets to know who you are. And it's
Mm.
crucial. And now, especially in COVID land, when we're all doing online dating, it's really important to dial in your marketing because you could be this great, fantastic person. But if your pictures look like crap, excuse my language, you're not going to get found. I don't care how great you are. Right. And so, I was working with this woman. I'll give you a for instance, and she was doing just a virtual program that I have, and it was funny because again, like she had a lot of inside work to do. She was attracting narcissists and emotionally unavailable men and all that stuff. And I said, look, we first have to dial in your marketing because who you are as a person is totally incongruent with what you're putting out there on your profile. Because when I looked at her profile, and yes, I've been known to like lift the hood of the engine and really take a deep dive into not just like your pictures, but your conversations and how you're really, I mean, it's no different than a book, right? Like, I want to know how people are telling their story to each other. And
Right.
it really is the same. And so it's amazing to me. And like with this woman, how not only her pictures were off, but even how she was flowing with her conversation. So what was funny is that she had this really beautiful picture of her that was awesome, that she should have put first and foremost, the first picture that the guys should have seen, because she looked super sexy. It was like a professionally well lit picture, done picture. But then all her other ones were crap. Like she had one that was like she looked this, really bitty. And then the picture was of a mountain. I'm like, this is a picture of a mountain, not you. And then there was another picture of her in sweats, that, she didn't have any makeup on. The light was really bad. And so I'm like, look, you're only as good as your worst picture. And this is true. And this, ladies, if you're listening to this, you've seen this in the men, right? Like you'll see a really cute
Oh,
guy. Right. And you're like, oh, he's cute. And then you start thumbing through and you're like, ugh. And if there's one bad picture, whoop, you'll swipe left or you'll, not give him a chance. And so it's really important to look at that. So anyway, with this woman, I had her start embracing her femininity and getting new pictures done, and we looked at dresses that put her in a better light. And yes, we put her in something red, and by the way, that's a trick because men love red, and
ooh.
that is a marketing trick. And so yeah, once we put in her new pictures, and believe me, it wasn't easy because that was part of her issue, is that she didn't like to be like advertising herself like that. But she recognized that that was part of the problem, right? And it was a deeper issue. Not wanting to be seen as a sexy woman was something that she was getting caught up in. It was a deeper issue. So even just the fact of embracing that side of her was huge. And once we put up those pictures, you better believe a whole new inventory came through of men. And in that inventory was a guy who ended up being her boyfriend. So I
Aw.
mean, that's what I'm talking about. Like it's giving people opportunity as they put themselves out there so that people really recognize that beauty and beauty is both inside and out, but it's got to be congruent in how you look and also how you feel.
Yeah, that is really interesting because if you've ever been online, you probably rejected men for exactly the same reason. Like,
Oh yeah.
really? Am I dating your dog? Am I dating those grandchildren? Like, some of the pictures people put up are pretty funny.
It's very funny, and we think as women we're so different than men, and we get really down on men being like, "Oh, men are pigs and they're all visual." I'm sorry, so are we. And I had a flirt immersion virtual day actually last month, and it was so much fun. And I was teaching women how to flirt, and then I had a panel of men come in. We were asking men questions and what they found sexy and what they liked in women, and then we did a speed dating event. And it was super eye-opening, for women to see that, like we all kind of look at and want the same things, but we just go at it maybe a little bit differently. But there was one exercise I did where I put up a picture of a real profile of a guy that I found on Bumble. And I said, "Would you date him?" And a lot of the women were like, "Oh, yes, he's so cute, blah, blah, blah." And like, we're getting all these things. I said, "Okay, here's his next picture." I said, "Now what do you think?" And everyone's like, "Boo, swipe left. No way." I'm like, "Ladies, this is the same guy." So you see how, powerful first impressions are. So here's a little research in that it only takes now, this is crazy, 7 seconds to make a first impression.
Wow.
7 seconds. And within those 7 seconds, you are basing you're making a judgment call on two things. Number one is the clothes that people are wearing. And number two is the attitude that they have, meaning their facial expressions, how their body language is. And 93% of communication is nonverbal. So it's not even what you say is as important in how you show up. And that includes your energy and what you're putting out there. So whether it's online or offline, how approachable are you? Like what are you
Mm.
marketing when you're putting yourself out there? Are you marketing, the resting bitch face? Are you marketing, don't talk to me? Are you marketing I'm available? Like, do you see yourself?
That is so interesting. So, a lot of professional women have trouble dating. And now that you're talking about this, I'm one of those from the 80s that blew through the glass ceiling. But I also don't think I date well because I tend to be the leader in the room, which sometimes you have to relinquish a little bit. So interesting you said that. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do?
Well, and I work with, actually, I would say, most of the women that I work with are high achievers and very successful and go-getters. And I think what has happened a lot, as women have gotten stronger in the workforce and we become more independent and finding our voice, we've also been losing something, and that is our femininity and how we
Mm.
are able to receive. And so I think that there's been it's like the pendulum, right? Like we were over, here on in one era of our life, and now we're fighting for something else. But with that, we're losing, the ability to receive. And
Yeah.
when it comes to men, and I work with just as many men as I do women, by the way. So I hear it from the horse's mouth, and they tell me, they say, a lot of times they feel like they have no role or place anymore. They
Right.
they want to give to women, but women are like, we don't need you. And
Mm.
so what happens is that, and what I'm seeing out there is that a lot of times people are at a standstill. It's like both genders have a responsibility when it comes to approachability.
Mhm.
And the women are getting mad at the men because they're not alpha enough, right? Well, I need a strong man. I need a strong man. I hear that all the time. And then the men are like, well, the women aren't approachable, that they're putting up, kind of the guard, right? Like, I don't need no man. And quite honestly, they don't, in the sense of financial, maybe sense, but at the end of the day, as women, we all want to find that person to be cherished, to loved, to have someone give to us. But if you put that shield up, you're not allowing for that. And so
Mm.
this is something that I've been talking to so many women about, and even like why I do these flirt workshops, right? And to help women understand that it's not about dumbing down or kind of, dialing back who you are. It's just allowing that softness, that playfulness, the femininity to also come out to balance that, also like independence. Otherwise, yeah, like I find that this is one of the biggest complaints that a lot of high achievers have.
Yeah, yeah, that I would say that's absolutely true, and I know myself, I can be a bit unapproachable sometimes.
Oh yeah,
So
like in
yeah,
what way?
like I get really nervous. So
Ah,
yeah, I get really nervous, so I just kind of clam up. I'm one of those people that once you get, I'm kind of quiet. I observe, but once you get to know me, then you can't shut me up. So it's just a matter of kind of breaking through that shell. So interesting. I'm gonna have to find out more afterwards about the flirt workshops.
oh my
Um,
gosh, definitely. Yeah. Well, and you mentioned something about the shyness, or people who are slower to warm up, like people who tend to be more observers than they are initiators. And that can, especially when it comes to first dates or even like online conversations, or when you're out and about, that can be misinterpreted as the bitch or
mhm.
aloof or she's not interested, right? And this is where the nonverbal communication comes in. So when you start kind of matching your nonverbals with just even like working on smiling and making eye contact. And I know we're all wearing masks now, but you can still smile with your masks on. You know when someone is smiling with their
Yeah.
eyes and connecting. And so it's actually been, I'm calling it the new masquerade, literally, because it's like we all kind of have these masks on, but it's a little mysterious in some ways too. And like, how can we be a little playful with it all? And I think it's a muscle that needs to be exercised even more so now, as we're all getting used to this new world, and how we can kind of renegotiate that and still connect with people in many, many ways.
Yes, absolutely. So, relationships online right now. You and I were just talking about how we were Zoom exhausted.
Ugh,
Um,
Zoom fatigue is
Zoom,
real.
yeah, it
Totally.
it is very real, and I'm kind of jealous because she took some time off and I haven't. Is that a thing with dating now? Like, I know we're getting used to, as a society, building relationships on Zoom, as opposed to in person, where we've been doing it at events in the past. Is that a thing with online dating too? How do you approach a Zoom call to build to date?
You got to know how to give good Zoom, ladies. Like, this is the thing. Like, this is part of the workshop
That
that
was good. That was
oh,
really
you
good.
got to give good Zoom. I mean, we're talking about learning how to, and see, this is where the first impression comes in, and learning how to navigate the online world like we once did in the physical world. Now, there's still people dating and doing social distance dating in a safe way, but here's what we're seeing. I'll kind of go over the progression in that, and this is a paradox that came out of this whole period, is that we're seeing more successful relationships form now than ever before. And I'll tell you why.
Mhm.
Is that it has really forced us all to slow down and
Mhm.
really pay attention to who's even worth going out with now. And with that, people are learning to build emotional connection and slow down and see what is important to them. Whereas before, in the physical sense, people would just like, oh, I'll just go meet, and not really paying attention to building that connection. I almost feel like it's going back in time when people used to court one another in a
Mhm.
very like intentional way. And so it's more like intentional dating. And so what I'm coaching my clients to do is really using the Zoom time and online time to dial in skills that maybe they didn't have before all this happened. So, like, were you good at flirting before all this happened? What if you learned how to flirt online in the comfort of your own home? Did you build emotional connection and conversations before this, or were you relying simply on the physical? How is your conversation skills? What do your pictures look like? And so
Mhm.
this is an opportunity to really get a handle on these skills so that when we're out of this thing, you'll come out even better than you were before. And so, yeah, we're just seeing like a slowing down and a progression. Now, you asked about Zoom fatigue. Yeah, I mean, it is real. And I think what I tell people all the time, you have to give yourself time and space to really be in that energy so that you show up on dates playful, fun, and not in your like masculine work self.
Right.
So I teach people to get like a date prep plan for themselves so that they are listening to music, they're getting in their body, getting out of their heads, taking improv classes, like things that you can do to really just be more playful and fun. And you'll have more fun doing it, quite
Mhm.
honestly, too, rather than just going right from one Zoom meeting, which was your work meeting, to a date Zoom meeting. That is the worst. So you got to change your clothes, you got to change your setting, you got to change your energy, your mood. And for God's sakes, you really got to pay attention to what you look like on camera. And you have to learn how to
Yeah.
navigate Zoom as well, because that makes a difference. Your lighting, your sound, your background, like all of that matters in a first impression.
That is so true. One of my clients, Nina Froreep, who is a video expert, I actually had my production boards back here, and she said to me, she said, you seem like when you were in the business world, you would have been a dress for success type of girl. And I was like, I was. And she's like, your
Ah,
background is not saying dress for success. So we went and got a painting and did. So those are the kinds of things I think you're talking about, where you really have to, the background matters, that what you're wearing matters. And, working at home, we haven't thought so much about that in the past. And now we're working from home and dating from home.
right. And so you have to set boundaries for yourself and have like a container where you're just in that like date energy. That's different because it's a different than your work energy. When you're in your work mode, you are in your masculine. You just are. I mean, that's what
Yeah.
makes everyone so productive and task oriented and goal oriented. And that's all great. But if you don't give yourself time to shake that off and be in a different space, that's the femininity piece. That's where you're going to be more open to receiving and paying attention to how you really connect with that guy.
Yeah, that's incredible. So, where do we find you, girls? If you want to, if and boys, if you want to date, I mean, Valentine's Day is right around the corner. We probably can't get you hooked up for this Valentine's Day, but definitely for the next. Where do we find you? And do you have something you want to give us today?
I do. Well, the easiest would be to go to my site. It's Kimmy, Kimmy, Seltzer, SELTZER.com. And you can find all my information on there. Pretty much every handle I have on social media is at Kimmy Seltzer. So you'll be able to find me anywhere. And then the Charisma Quotient is my podcast, and you can kind of check out what I'm about. And I coach people live on there, and you can get a feel for my style. And I actually, because I had one free gift in mind before we were talking, but now that we're talking, I think this is more on point. I have a dating archetype quiz that I would love to
Ooh.
offer your audience because there are actually 5 dating archetypes, and I encourage, all of you to take it to see what archetype you are. I developed this because I realized, before COVID hit, I was doing these wing girl sessions where I go out with people and I teach them how to flirt and navigate the outside world. And I will get back to that hopefully one day. But I found that there was just some commonalities and similarities in people that really seem to hold true. And people kind of fall into one of these 5 categories. Now, it's not like there's not a total science to it, and you may be more than one, but usually there's one that kind of stands out. So I'll give you the link to that, and you can download the dating archetype there's a little guide that goes with it, and you can see that as well. And then I also have a audio series, and it's called This May Be Why You Suck at Dating, that goes with that. So if you want to take it one step further, you can download that. You can listen to it as you do my podcast, and I'll give you the link to that.
Awesome. Where do we find that link at?
I'll give it to you. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you can find it on my website, but I will also give it to you and your listeners.
Okay. That sounds great. Thank you so much. This was a lot of fun today. Got a lot of information, and yeah, I'm going to check out those flirt. I need to learn how to flirt again.
Yeah, you can do it. It's like pushing the button, and then once you unleash it, you're like a butterfly, and it really, dating becomes more fun. And that's the whole thing. And when you find it fun, that's when usually you find the one.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.